The book we're using for this class is A First Look at Communication Theories, the 8th edition by Emery Griffin. My name is Kaniqua Brown. I'm a junior at Columbus State University and I am studying communication. Today I'm going to talk to you about speech codes theory. My first question is, do you know what a speech code is? If you don't know what a speech code is, I'm going to tell you. According to the works of Jerry Phillipson and Emery Griffin, a speech code is a socially constructed system of terms, meanings, and rules pertaining to communication. In Jerry Phillipson's study, he studied two groups in Chicago who are completely different, and he studied their speech codes. Today, I am going to compare the speech codes of members who are in a Greek organization with those who are not in a Greek organization. The first preposition is, wherever there is a distinctive culture, there is a distinctive speech code. Coming into the sorority, we've heard many rumors of what they accept and what they don't accept, so it kind of puts you in the fear of not being able to be enough. You're not qualified for what they want. And in actuality, you don't really know unless you go and you're interacting with them and you see how they are and you actually get the information for yourselves. Because some people, they just simply listen to the rumors that they have heard around campus, and it's not exactly what they're looking for. But as you can see in the later preposition, that sometimes you have to decipher the truth and between the truth and what's out there in the open as rumors. Preposition number 2 is, in any given community, multiple speech codes are deployed. Okay, so everyone knows you're supposed to respect your elders. So when you get around elders, you kind of talk a little bit differently. You talk very properly to them and you make sure you just show them the utmost respect. Now, when we're talking to our sorors who are around our age, we're not disrespectful. However, we do not use the most proper English. We use our slang, things we say on a day-to-day basis. And then the in-between would be our sorors who are not our age. They're older than us. We're not entirely using the proper English. However, we're not being disrespectful either. So it's like, if we're talking to sorors our age, we might be like, "What's up, girl?" That type of thing. But if we're talking to sorors who are a little bit older, we may say, "Hey, how are you?" It's still that hey, it's still informal. But if we're talking to someone who is an adult, who is older, and is not in our sorority, we may say, "Hello, how are you doing? Good morning, how are you doing?" Things like that. Not saying that you can't talk to your sisters that way, but it is more common that we would talk to each other in a less proper English. The psychology part of the speech code basically puts people into the category as either being individual or being bundled up into one category, meaning they all act the same way. The sociology side expresses that speech codes provide answers to what's socially accepted in each community. Preposition 4 basically said, the significance of speaking depends on the speech codes used by listeners and speakers to create and interpret communication. In Griffin's study, he talks about how the two different groups in Chicago used the word communication. One group appreciated the word communication a lot more. They held it to a higher standard, whereas the other one, they didn't really care too much about the word. So I like to use the word play. We have that word in our sorority, and that means like going out, hanging out with your friends. Of course, when you hear play, you're thinking of maybe games and things of that sort, but we're not necessarily meaning we're going to play like games and stuff. We mean we're going to play as in we're going to take time away from our books and we're going to go hang out with each other and, spend time with each other, things of that nature. I've tried using that word with people who aren't in our sorority and they don't understand what I'm talking about. They're just looking at me crazy and I'm just, it's different. So I realized that I have to keep that in the sorority because people are going to understand unless you explain it to them what we're trying to say. So preposition number 5 is, the terms, rules, and premises of a speech code is out there into the open for people to judge. And just like I was saying earlier when we were talking about our playtimes, we fail to realize that there are people out there listening to what we're talking about, and they're taking those things and they're judging us as if it's not the norm for college students to go out and party and do things of that nature. It's the Preposition number 6 is the awful use of speech codes is a sufficient condition for controlling, explaining, and predicting the form of discourse about the morality of a communication conduct. So basically it means while having a conversation you can kind of predict where the rest of the conversation is going if you understand their speech codes. So for my example, a few weeks ago we had an NPHC meeting. It stands for the National Pan-Hellenic Council. It is for the 9 Black Greek organizations on college campuses. So a few weeks ago in this meeting, an advisor of ours was speaking, and she was speaking about something that was negative, but she was speaking about it in a respectful way. And the question was, is this in our bylaws? And the other lady responded with, well, we're going to put it in the bylaws. And the entire chapter was just like, so no. So it's kind of like, we kind of expected her to say that, and it was like right then and there, we were just like, so no. Because we understand the topic of the conversation and how these people work, we knew what was coming, and we knew what we were going to say right after. We already knew that we were going to have to object to what she said. Thank you guys for watching my video. I hope you learned a lot about speech codes theory. If you didn't quite understand it, you can definitely look at this book. It's the First Look at Communication. It's the 8th edition by Emory Griffin, and it's on chapter 33 in the speech codes theory. Thank you for watching.